creatures have been described as kind of a human that'll happily push you off a cliff, a wet snake fox with a hand for a tail, and the anti-tooth fairy. So come, pull up a stool at Creature Tavern. Adventurer! You missed 3 brawls, 2 toasts, and 1 mysterious pint. Lucky for you, the good stuff never runs out. Let's get to the table as we hop into our first creature for the week, the Pukwudgie from Wampanoag folklore. The Pukwudgie comes from the old Wampanoag word, which means person of the wilderness, or a more unusual translation I found says little wild man of the woods that vanishes. Rolls right off the tongue. But don't let the name charm you. There's nothing cute about them, unless you have some questionable tastes. Some other scraps of parchment say they go by another name, Bagwaginini, which means wild man or forest spirit, in the old Algonquian tongue. Now don't mistake them for fairies or friendly woodland spirits either. The Pukwudgie ain't some mischievous pixie with a leaf for a hat. They're forest spirits. Aye, but primordial ones. Older than any tale carved by man. Some say they were the very first spirit to walk the earth, even before humans had a single mark in the dirt. Folks say they're the oldest known creatures in all of North American folklore. Now if you happen to see one, you might think you're looking at some sort of sickly little goblin or a stunted troll. They've got a kind of human shape to them, but it's twisted, crooked. Legends say they stand about knee height, on most folk anyways, 3 foot on a proud day. Their skin's the colour grey, like river rock. Smooth, cold, sometimes said to glow with an eerie light, like moonlight cast on a dull blade. Their features, however, are stretched. That's probably the best word for it. Oversized noses, ears and lips, long, pointy fingers, good for jabbing and spell work, depending on their mood. And the strangest part, some even reckon they carry a curious, sweet smell. Said to be like crush flowers or spring blossoms. A pleasant scent that drifts just in front of the danger. Once, long ago, if the elders are to be believed, Pukwudgies were on friendly terms with humans. But things soured, as they want to do with humans. Whatever the reason, the truce is now broken. So watch which wicked creatures you welcome on your next outing, my well-woofed adventurer. Pukwudgie are said to be shy of the sun, preferring the dank atmospheres of deep green. You'll find them skulking round woods and marshes, from Delaware to Prince Edward Island, and parts of Indiana. But if you look at your map for the heart of their mischief, then the big old X sits over the eastern seaboard of the US, specifically Massachusetts. And fun fact, adventurer, they've had so many sightings that the local town guard erected a Pukwudgie crossing sign in the Freetown State Forest. Some tales say the Pukwudgie are drawn to spots steeped in the supernatural. Know any haunted patches? Or spots known for an axe-wielding spirit or two? That lady there does. Aye, the one by the Grey Hume axe. Swears blind she saw a whole camp of Pukwudgie near Round Rock, Texas, not far from where Bigfoot's been said to roam. Now on to the meat of the tale, adventurer. The Pukwudgie, they don't tend to play by the rules of nature that bind normal folk. First off, they can vanish. Just like that. 1 second it's grinning at you from the bushes, the next it's gone, like breath on a window. And to make finding one just that little bit trickier, they can of course shapeshift. Got that talent refined to a devilish art. Books on the Pukwudgie say it Books on the Pukwudgie say its most common form is a creature that looks like a porcupine from the back and a half troll, half human from the front. And of course it walks upright as well. So if you come across a porcupine with a man's stride, you've just found yourself a Pukwudgie. And this ain't all the little blighters can rework themselves into. They've been reported as taking the shape of many a beast. Wolves, bears, boars, and badgers, to name a few. Always seem to be woodland creatures, mind you. Likely because they love the woods so much. But there's nothing I've found or heard to suggest that this is a limiting factor in their ability. Heck, one might be that shifty looking dog, sat just over there in the corner. And then there's the magic. Old forest magic, as far as I can tell anyways. I've heard tales of the Pukwudgie conjuring poison arrows, sparking fire from air, wiping folks' memories. Even heard their stare can be lethal. And it's not always so obviously dangerous as well. Much older records say these porcupine trolls prefer to create floating balls of light they use to lure. You'll think you're chasing a firefly, but next thing you know, you're knee deep in a bog with a dozen grey-skinned figures surrounding you. Though it ain't always fancy tricks with this lot, sometimes the old ways suit them just fine. They're known to be fond of a spot of stalking, you see, so don't think you're safe just because you walked away. And if you're wrong one, hells, they might just push you off a cliff, might stab you with a short knife or spear they're said to carry. Or if you've really upset one, they might blind you by throwing sand in your eyes before kidnapping you. Or worse, sneak into your home and kidnap a kid or two. Or, if they fancy it, I have seen some records that say they'll just burn the whole village down. From what I've read, they're proper fond of that one. They'll love to cause trouble for humans. Had a regular in. She told me she came across a Pukwudgie while alone on a forest walk. Let it be, she said. Minded her own business. But every night since, she was woken up by it peering through her bloody window. Watching her. Every single night. Eventually it caused her to pack up and move. Hopefully that's given her some peace. I haven't really heard from her since. And what you might find surprising, my well-dressed adventurer, are the tales of the harmony we shared with the Pukwudgie I mentioned earlier. Aye, the Pukwudgie once lived in harmony with humans, until the folk hero Mashup got tired of them, tormenting some of the locals. So he exiled a lot of them to a different part of North America. The Pukwudgie obviously weren't all too happy with this one-sided compromise, so they made their way back, and depending on who's telling the tale, they either murdered Mashup's 5 sons and called it a day, or they also finished off Mashup too. It's said the whole affair sparked a foul jealousy in the Pukwudgie, bitter over the love folks showed their heroes, and now we're all paying the price. Yet there's people who've told me the Pukwudgie are rather good-hearted, and if you treat them kindly and show a little respect, they'll return it in kind. And others told me they're mischievous, yes, but completely harmless, and they're only going to turn violent if you turn violent first. So how can you tell the good Pukwudgie from the bad? Well, it doesn't look like you can. Unless you ask the locals, maybe? Best advice I got is just be cautious with a lot of them. And if you see some hovering magic lights in the woods, don't go chasing after them. At least not alone. If you manage to spot one before it spots you, just spin on the spot, turn around, and get out of there. Unless you have a little grey stalker for the rest of your days. And if you really can't avoid them, then maybe attack full force? Now I found says they're particularly strong. But they are pretty magical. And they have the numbers. So take my last point here with a touch of salt. Now excuse me a minute, adventurer. That dodgy looking mutt hasn't stopped staring since I mentioned him earlier. Hello again, listener. It's me here, the other side of the coin. Thanks for listening to Creature Tavern, episode 8. If you've listened to all of them, fantastic. That's brilliant. You're my favourite listener. If you haven't listened to all of them, you're missing out. You're missing out. I mean, the first few are a little dicey, but hey, the creatures are pretty interesting. And now I'm going to go on to the business. The usual stuff. You all know it by now. You don't need me to repeat this. But for any new listeners, if you'd like to be part of this show, then share the show using the hashtag Creature Tavern on X or Blue Sky. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. You might find yourself as a character in the next episode. You could be a sentient chair, perhaps, who bear witness to an assault by a monster. Like a monster attack. That's what I meant to say. Or maybe you could be a shape-shifting appliance who has information on a creature that cursed them and you want to be turned back. Or maybe you don't. Suppose it depends on the appliance. Whatever it is, I'll put a lot more thought into it than this, and they'll have your name as well. You will go down in legend as a better idea than the two I just spoke of. And while you're at it, if that was enough to convince you, share the show with a friend, or a family member, or an enemy, or anybody that you think would be interested in creatures from folklore. Running this tavern is a full-time gig, and we have no budget for promotion or advertising or anything like that. We depend entirely on listeners like yourself. So a share on social media would be absolutely fantastic. I'm going to end this interlude here because I'm clearly running out of things to say. Thanks again for listening, and I really hope that wasn't too excruciating. Alright, let's get back to the tavern. Thanks for hanging on, adventurer. Handsome lad there just fancied the jerky hanging out my pocket. Of course I give him it. Look at him. He's gorgeous. Right, now that that's settled, you want to hear about our next creature? We're grabbing our magnifying glass and looking at the Nguruvilu from Chilean folklore. Like many creatures, this one has a few other names you may know it by. Ever heard of a Nguruvilu? What about a Nguruvilu? Maybe a Girivilo? Or perhaps the Lord of the Water? Whatever name you know it by, best watch your tongue. Many folks consider it a taboo to speak this creature's name aloud. So what is it? I hear you ask with your eyes. Well, picture all the best bits of a fox. Not those bits, adventurer. Reel it back, reel it back. The other best bits, stitched onto the body of a snake. The Nguruvilu is said to have the cunning head and swift legs of a fox. The best bits. Others say those parts could come from a cat, but in most of the tales I saw it was a fox. No great tiger or panther, by the way. I'm just talking about a run-of-the-mill house cat. You can picture whichever you prefer. And the body, that's where the real intrigue lies. You see, it's described as long and slick, like a great serpent, with a tail that's no common thing either. Picture a whip, ending not in a tuft or a point, but in a hand, with dagger-like fingernails at the tips. Commonly referred to as their snagging claw. They also come in a range of sizes. Some books have them down as these small, slender little critters, while other stories show them at a monstrous length, around 30 metres. To help with the scale, adventurer, one of these sturdy benches here, that sits about 4 grown men, shoulder to shoulder, give or take a burly elbow or two. So for 30 metres, that'll be a full 15 benches, lined end to end. Personally, I lean towards the larger tales, adventurer. Easier to picture it that way. And if it's truly a guardian of the winds, like some believe it to be, well, that towering size seems a right fit for the job, don't you think? You'll find one of these great coiling foxes lurking in calm rivers, passes, channels, and stagnant backwaters. A key feature to look out for is its signature whirlpool, especially if you see one when the currents all run the one way. In that case, there might just be an Nguruvilu at the centre. But they're most commonly sighted in the lakes of northern Patagonia and central Chilean rivers. so I'd head there first, if you're eager to spee this slippery snake fox. Now, it won't surprise you to hear the Nguruvilu is one hell of a sinister, sneaky beast. It's a fox-snake combo after all. This particular trait can be seen pretty well in the way it likes to lure folks into its hunting grounds. Legends say it'll hide in the water, shifting stones about to make it look a little shallower and safe to cross. You'd reckon that a walk through there wouldn't even get your knees wet. But the moment your foot touches the riverbed, that tail snaps out, quick as a whip, silent as a snake's strike, coiling round your leg as it works to drag you under. It's said the Nguruvilu handles humans in the water the way humans handle horses on the land. And the strength of it, if you're dealing with a larger one, you're going to expect it to be strong. But from what I've read, this unnatural strength seems to be present in Nguruvilu of all sizes. Thankfully, they don't always decide to reach out with that tail. You might see a whirlpool begin to grow instead, quickly as the waters rise. This is the creature using that powerful tail to swirl the water round and round as you begin to get sucked under, never seen again. And it's not just the claw-tipped tail you need to watch out for. Some records suggest the Nguruvilu can simply manipulate the flow of rivers and streams instead. It preys most often on the unsuspecting. You know, fishermen who cast their lines in the wrong waters, children who splash about too far from the shore, travellers who don't know the old stories. Really anyone who tries to cross the river it now calls its home. Some folks even said its attacks are more targeted, directly choosing to drown those who pollute the waters around its home. So what happens to the ones it catches, I hear you say? Well, from the documents I managed to cobble together, this all depends on its mood, or perhaps your sins. Some, it'll drink dry, just the blood. All other fluids are yours to take to the grave. Others it tears into, devouring them entirely. And then, there are those it simply drowns. At least with these, the river will give back the body, pale and swollen eye, but it's better than some. And the legends don't end there. There are records, some, especially the Mapuche people of Chile, that say the Nguruvilu is not a monster at all, but a guardian, a protector of rivers and sacred places. It punishes those who foul the waters. These records say if you cross its waters with respect, if you honour the river, it might just leave you be. The Mapuche people also believe the Nguruvilu can be summoned for aid. That's right. Some call upon this creature to heal the sick or protect their people. It's painted in a more noble light. Sure, it's a benevolent creature, but it helps maintain the balance in nature. Now, when it comes to surviving this particular creature, it's as simple as not bathing, swimming, or fishing in any Nguruvilu-infested waters. But if you're in the mood for a splash, then you'll need a few tips to survive. Firstly, bring some snacks. Locals say if you feed the creature a horse, it'll leave you alone. And vice versa. If you've got a favourite horse you just cannot live without, simply feed it a member of your party. A good tip to have next time you find yourself travelling past the rivers of Chile. And on the topic of feeding, there's many tales that say the Nguruvilu can be appeased with simple offerings of food and drink, or by completing a particular form of worship. For this, you'll need to ferment some wheat dough in a leather bag and plant some spears in the earth. You can also slaughter a small white bull and offer the pieces to the creature. It does specify white bull as well. Keep that in mind. Most often though, you'll need the services of a machi. They're kind of like a shaman. Or a kalku. They're like a sorcerer. The kalku should be given gifts for their services, so make sure you pack something special. Then the kalku wade into the river until they reach the whirlpool. They'll dive headfirst in, and after a long period of calm, they'll breach the surface, Nguruvilu restrained in their arms, held at bay by their magical abilities. They'll then proceed to threaten the creature with a long, sharp knife, saying they're going to mutilate it if it ever harms another person trying to cross this water. Threat over, the Kalku releases the Nguruvilu back into the waters. This act will encourage the Nguruvilu to move its business elsewhere. And as like most creatures, the Nguruvilu isn't a fan of being mutilated. So they do tend to move on. You'll know the creature's moved once that whirlpool vanishes. When the water's calm, you're free to cross. Now, speaking of snacks, let's get you a bowl of wyvern rings. No. There's no actual wyvern in them. Well, at least I don't think so. Welcome back to the break, my lovely listener. Thank you for making it this far. Would you mind subscribing to the podcast? Or if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribing to the YouTube channel. It means the world, and it shows that at least you've made it to the second half of one episode anyways. It's typically when I tend to ask people to subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's completely free, and it is like a dream come true for me every time I see a new one. So why not help make this Tavernkeepers dreams come true? Yes, we're going to go with that. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much anywhere sounding snails make their snail homes. Just search for Creature Tavern. And while you're there, why not leave a review? Or a suggestion? Anything really. Human contact in the form of written word is always the best, I've said. Or audio. That's also great too. That's up there as well. I'd really appreciate it. And I'd be really interested to hear people's thoughts on the direction or what else they'd like to see. I'm really not too sure. Get it jot down. Send it in. That would be fantastic. I'd really, really appreciate it, truly. And with my begging basket back in hand, we'll call it a day for this break. There's no more as well. That was the last one. We'll get back to the tavern and we'll continue with our third creature for this week. Thank you again. Looking a little flustered there, adventurer. Aye, they are a little spicy like. Here, neck this. Now while the heat dies down, how about we sink our teeth into our third and final creature for the week. Now this creature goes by even more names, if you can believe it. Classically known as Jenny Greenteeth from British folklore. But it seems the folk around here each have their own name for this murky terror. We've got a Ginny, Genie, Old Jenny, Wicked, and even a Granny Old. But it's always Greenteeth at the end. Apart from one lady who calls her simply Jenny Green. And much like her large catalogue of names, she has quite the creature resume. Some say she's possibly a British nature goddess. Or she could be a relative of the Swedish Knack or German Nix. Some say she's a witch, a ghost, a hag, a drowner, a water fairy, a homicidal spirit, an actual pile of pondweed, or the evil twin of the tooth fairy. And she's spoken of as a fusion of human and aquatic decay. Her flesh is sickly, a mottled green, slick, with a layer of slime that clings to her like a second skin, likely streaked with patches of pond scum. Her face is gaunt, with hollow cheeks that seem to sink into her skull, the pointed chin and long green fangs coated in a film of grime and rot. Her eyes? Windows to the soul, they say. Well, Jenny's are said to be the most horrifying feature. Bulging milky orbs that glow faintly in the dark, piercing through the murk. Her hair, that's a tangled mess of wet, knotted strands, streaked with slime and dotted with various bits of water vegetation. Her body is emaciated, Her limbs are naturally long and spindly, ending in clawed fingers and toes. Her nails are blackened and broken, sharp enough to tear through flesh, some people say. And her movements tend to be jerky and unnatural, as though her joints are all stiff from years of lurking in the cold, dark depths of the water. And when she emerges, her form drips with foul-smelling still water, leaving a trail of mucus in her wake. Or as one stranger from Burnley said, she might have been a real human who was thrown down an old pit, only to return every full moon. She even told me the old rhyme they have for her. "Hey lads, run for your life. Old Jenny Greenteeth's coming with a knife." So I guess she also has a knife. Quality information as always in this tavern. And fun fact, the name Jenny Greenteeth is also given to duckweed, which is a common pondweed. Jenny Greenteeth is mostly spotted around Lancashire and Cheshire, but patrons from Yorkshire, Shropshire and Liverpool all claim to have seen this watery witch too. If you ask these folks, they'll tell you she has a particular fondness for stagnant water, like the ponds and marsh pits that have a thick covering of duckweed across the surface. Under a dim moon, you're thinking about to walk into a lush garden. Then, in an instant, whoosh, you're swallowed by the ground. Others say Greenteeth welcomes any body of water. Could be a canal, a lake, a river, springs, wells, hell, even the sea. Unfortunately, my dear adventurer, there doesn't appear to be any record of a specific location for Jenny. Seems she has a lot of properties in her portfolio, so if you want to go looking for her, my advice would be to start with the puddles and just work your way up. Now I hope you weren't planning a fishing trip or a spot of wild swimming anytime soon, adventurer, as you're likely going to have this foul hag playing on your thoughts the entire time. Was that ripple just a fish? And is that tapping I hear on the underside of the boat? It's said she's a patient hunter, resting just below the water's surface, her body still, waiting for the moment you venture too far. And I can tell what you're thinking. I'll just walk along the edge. I'll spot her before she's able to get me. She's a water hag after all, and I'm on land here. Well, I've heard more than a few reports that say Greenteeth's not just a master of stealth, but a damn fine snap player too. I'm saying she's quick. See, people know not to get in the water around her. What they don't know is Jenny's more than happy to jut her long, sinewy arms out and drag anyone into her waters. Usually it's children or the elderly, and if that wasn't enough, I swear I even heard one fella claim he saw her using a dart on a victim, although he didn't say what the dart did. So if you're unlucky enough to feature in one of Greenteeth's bath time hugs, you could at least bet on a quick end, right? Oh, I'm afraid not, adventurer. It's said Greenteeth enjoys a spot of torture, notorious for playing with her food. From what I can tell from these reports, I'm guessing from onlookers to Greenteeth's assault who decided to not help, but hey, good information for us. It's likely that she'll drag you down into the darkest recesses of her waters, and just before your last breath escapes, she'll let you go, only for that hope of survival to be siphoned out, little by little, till you become her lunch. And let's not forget her side hustle as the anti-tooth fairy. If we're to believe this side of Greenteeth's story, then I'm happy to say it's a lot shorter. Basically, if you're a child, or you have children, who don't brush their teeth, then Jenny the Tooth Demon, they call her in these stories, will come to punish you. That man over there, right at the back, aye, by all the spears. Don't know why we have so many spears, but he's by the spears. He claims Jenny turns your teeth green. The lady, 2 tables over, yes, still with all the spears, says she'll drag the child off into a watery hollow. And that party at the back, yes, still in the spears, that's the spear corner, I guess. They all say, she'll eat you. Now, I couldn't find anything to explain how she has an understanding of everyone's dental hygiene, just that she's eager to dole out punishments to those with bad dental health, which is funny considering her own teeth. And now that you know of this foul water hag, fancy knowing how to handle an encounter? Well, first things first. If you see a still, flat field of green, and you reckon this could be duckweed, maybe kick a couple rocks over. If it sinks with a sudden blup, then steer clear of the edge, and make sure you're a few fingers length away. You don't want her reaching out and yanking your ankles. Also doesn't hurt to travel light. If you end up taking a tumble into the drink, no sense making Jenny's job easier. Heavy steel will drag you straight to her eager arms. Best trade it for a bit of hardened leather if you can manage it. Heard tell it's all the rage this season anyways. Stylish and survivable. And you heard earlier, old Jenny's got a taste for the young and the old. So if you can, make sure you don't fall into that age bracket. And it also might be wise to bring along a companion who does. That way, when old Jenny Greenteeth comes creeping, her eyes will settle on them first, buying you and the rest of your party just enough time to strike her down. Or leg it. And if we're going to go off these tooth fairy tales, you'll be wanting to get your hands on some rotten children's teeth. With a handful of these grubby little gnashers, you might just be able to cook up a plan to catch the watery lass, or bargain your way out of an encounter. And as luck would have it, I've got a canny bag of these mucky teeth right under the bar. Don't you ask why, and I'll do you a great deal. And with that, we're finished with our last creature for the week. We've learned that porcupine trolls are as dangerous as they sound. Threats of mutilation work as well as you'd expect. And brushing your teeth could save you from turning into supper. Now that bell means it's last call here at Creature Tavern. So grab yourself one more drink for the road. And until next time, tread carefully, adventurer. You never know when you might wander into the weird